The Longevity Lounge is proudly brought to you by AIA Australia, dedicated to helping Australians live healthier, longer, better lives. In this episode of the Longevity Lounge, we're joined by Ryan Girdler, a celebrated NRL legend whose legacy on the field is matched only by his passion for life beyond sport. As one of Australia's most prolific point scorers, Ryan's career with the Penrith Panthers and his performances in State of Origin and international matches earned him a reputation for precision, consistency and grit. Today, Ryan brings that same drive into a new chapter, leading men's retreats and wellness experiences designed to help men connect with themselves and with each other. His mission is to create safe spaces where men can open up, build community, and make meaningful changes that improve their health, mindset, and quality of life. In our conversation, Ryan opens up about the mindset shifts, daily practices, and personal experiences that have shaped his journey into holistic wellness, and why longevity now matters more than ever.
So Ryan, welcome to the lounge.
It's really nice to be here, boys, and I'm glad that I wore the team uniform as well, did you? And, you know, Beachy, see?
Correct.
That's how aligned we are, brothers.
Good to have you back on the Northern Beach.
It's nice to be back on the beaches. It's been, I think, 5 years since I moved up to the sunny coast, so can't say that I've missed the traffic, but there's, you know, every time I come back here, it just reminds me of how beautiful this city is, and this is the best part of it.
It's a nice day too here, nice and summer.
It's a lovely day. Thanks for bringing that up, guys.
Why do they call you the professor? I just want to know.
I'm an adjunct associate professor at Griffith Business School, up your way.
There you go. Now I'm nervous. Yeah, I thought it was just you, Leachy, and I wasn't too prepared, but now
we're
the train's in.
Yeah, academia will run.
I'll get ready.
No, I don't think so. So you were a very familiar face. I moved to Sydney in 95. You were on television playing NRL, very good at it, I understand. What's happened since then?
Yeah, quite a bit. My wife and I opened Whole Foods restaurants on the northern beaches up here. There's currently 6 of them, but 4 of them are up here on the beaches. My wife's always been really motivated to heal people. It's just been her calling. So she wanted to heal people through food and diet. No really formal background in she's not a dietitian or anything, but she always felt the call. And we were living in Dee Why at the time, and a lot of people live in apartments there. No, not many people other than Leachy can afford a house around those areas anymore, and he's probably got 3. And so all of our friends, and we all went through this sort of transition of, you know, being young couples into young families. And we were all eating out all the time because the only thing you would do, you would be in your 1 or 2 bedroom apartment. You couldn't swing a cat. And then so what would you do? You'd go out and you'd have breakfast, lunch and dinner. We found that the offerings weren't the kind of offerings that we felt like that could nourish our family, our growing families. So it was like, okay, so let's do something about that. So we bought a cafe on the Strand there at Dee Why. Our child at the time was gluten and dairy intolerant, all those things. A lot of those kids sort of come out at that. That was that sort of generation. Since that, she's moved on, and we found that everywhere we went, we could eat, but she couldn't eat, and we went through that whole process. So we just wanted to create somewhere where the people with those intolerances could eat, created something for people that didn't want to eat meat. I eat meat, but, you know, a lot of people don't. And then we just wanted to sort of bundle that up and make it affordable for people to come and eat healthy, nutritious, wholesome food that like they would cook and prepare in their own homes, but in a restaurant or a cafe.
If you live on the Northern Beaches, everyone's been to that restaurant, your cafe there at Dee Why Beach. It's just a known place. Like for people listening outside of Sydney, they might not know, but if you're in the Northern Beaches, everyone knows about Girdlers there on Dee Why Beach.
Well, they know about you at Girdlers in the new one in Narrowband, where you would lob there for hours, use their internet and electricity and order a cup of water.
And ask for free food.
Ask for water,
Yeah, we've got a picture of him behind the register.
Don't you know who I am is what they say, you say.
You're always welcome, brother.
Thank you.
Well, he brings his crew into Dee Why. He's paid his dues. I don't know about you, Professor. I haven't seen you at any of the stores, but hey, I haven't been here, so hopefully you get down.
That's why. So outside of, Girdler's, your restaurants or your cafes, incredibly successful, as you say, have you got other interests in terms of wellness and well-being and longevity?
Yeah, so we transitioned about 4 years ago, moved up on the sunny coast, as I mentioned before. I had, as most, ex-athletes, pro athletes do, the transition out of sport was a really difficult one. I was fortunate enough where I had opportunities in the media. I did some stuff with Channel 9 and I was broadcasting for Triple M for 15 years up until last year. But that didn't necessarily satisfy the push and the energy and the things that used to drive me as a professional athlete. always wanting to be better, all the internal dialogue that was actually the driving force to me being successful in that career then had nowhere to go, and that was really difficult. So my wife took me to a meditation course about 10 years ago up in Avalon. I have to say, like, I'd done little bits of yoga and things like that, but I always looked at everything like it was going to be a physical opportunity to work on something, but I didn't understand the mindfulness of yoga. So I was doing yoga, but I wasn't doing yoga. And so my wife said with the inner dialogue was actually starting to get a little bit destructive. I was starting to look for things like alcohol and bad diet. And I was a couple of young kids, a couple of shops by that stage, media career, like, doing everything for everyone else. And still continually beating myself up because I had nowhere to put this kind of energy. I had no control over the mind, essentially. So, yeah, she took me out to this meditation retreat, which was really difficult. I told her I'd give it a go for 3 months, 20 minutes in the morning and 20 minutes in the evening. And boys, that changed my life.
Wow.
That changed my life. I did it with a guy at the time, obviously breath work, and I'm a breath work facilitator now. I do a lot of that in our retreats, but kind of in the Western sense, holotropic breathing techniques. But back then I was doing a meditation course with a guy that had studied pranayama in India, They've obviously been around in their culture for a very long time. And he said, look, the cheat code to meditation, because I know you're struggling, and a lot of men do, we're all pretty busy, is doing some sort of breathing techniques before you go into the stillness. And I'm like, aha, okay. So he taught me a couple of different breathing techniques, some activated breathing techniques and some calming breathing techniques that allowed me to meditate. And then I meditated like consistently for those 3 months, which was really, really difficult. A lot of men come to me and say, oh, my mind's too busy for meditation. Yeah. It's like, yeah, well, welcome to the club. You just got to find a way through it. It's exactly right. So yeah, fortunately, that was a long time ago. And then when we sort of moved on from the cafes and wanted to move up onto the sunny coast, I went and did a breathwork session, a deep holotropic session with a friend of mine now who's been running those classes for a long time. And I had an out of body experience. Anyone that's done that kind of work will understand that you get into that altered state of consciousness. I won't tell you, what I went through, but it kind of opened the rainbow bridge for me. I was like, oh, okay, so there's more. So there's the meditation, there's the breath work, and there's this other thing that I've just now experienced that I want to understand. So then I started doing more of that sort of work. He took me on as kind of, he was like a little bit of a mentor, really showed me the depths of that kind of work, taking people on specific journey with the breath. And then I've been doing that now for about 4 years. And then we sort of started doing the retreats with a good friend of mine who's very spiritual, and he's been in that space for a long period of time, very gifted human. And we combine kind of what I do with the breathing and with the men's mentoring with what he does. And yeah, we've been doing those retreats for about 3 or 4 years now. And last year I kind of left my job at commercial radio at Triple M, took a bit of a leap of faith. I don't feel like I chose this path. I feel like this path chose me. And to be of service to the men at the moment, it's mainly the men, I'm just so grateful for the opportunity to sit in that space and be of some influence. I don't fix anyone, they fix themselves, but we give them the tools.
I just want to go, I'm interested, you talked about NRL, and that was your background before, you went on to the next stage of your life. If you ever watch on television, after a try scored, you see the players, they'll get around in a huddle and they start doing nasal breathing on the field. And so breathworks, it's become a thing now, even in the NRL, where you see all the different teams are actually, so they obviously have a breathwork coach just come in and taught them how to relax and quieten their mind and just to get themselves back into a sort of a pattern using breathing as a way of doing it. I remember watching the semi-finals just this month, and they were doing that during the game, and I've seen it the last few years. So it's sort of becoming mainstream now.
How beneficial do you think that would have been, Leachy, like when we're at our peak? Oh. Like having those coping mechanisms that when you're in that, like the nervous energy before a big competition. I used to be a goal kicker, and the amount of times that, I'd be involved in the try and then have to try and regulate the nervous system, come back and focus on the kick and all those sorts of things. Even like I broke my nose as a young fella playing sport, believe it or not. And I didn't breathe out of my nose for my whole career. Yeah. I didn't understand the science behind it. And I got my nose fixed, and it was probably the most painful operation I've ever had. And I didn't even know why I did it, but a couple of years after I retired, and thank God.
Yeah.
Because now I understand the science. I go deep into the science. We educate the men around what that looks like for them to be nose breathers. We bring awareness, not just to how they're breathing when they're on retreat and what they're doing, but that's one of the biggest tools that take away, just to regulate their nervous system, when they're confronted with situations. So, as you said, bringing that sympathetic, getting out of that sympathetic response with that breathing, shallow breathing into the chest, and then going deep into belly breathing, parasympathetic nervous system, all that sort of stuff to regulate while those guys are playing, just to come back to their center, because you've got a million things in that stage of a game going on in your mind, especially for the playmakers and that. Yeah. They just come back to their center, regulate their breathing, and then they go again.
Carl and I have both got right into the breathwork stuff, and a couple of years ago I thought, you know what, I wouldn't mind learning more about this, and I signed up to become an advanced coach with a guy called Patrick McEwen.
I know that.
He's like the leading breathwork guy in the world.
Yeah, okay.
Mate, it was a hard course to do because there was so much information that was in it, but you learnt just how powerful it was, to be able to go and control your breathing to affect your emotions.
Well, no one's making money out of it, brother. That's the thing. Yeah. And you know, how many times you go to the doctor and you get put on medication or you get told all these different things, but no one's telling you about the simple things like eat well, breathe properly. Get the right amount of rest. Try and stay away from.
Being on the meditation for a long time, like he's got a background with his dad.
I think he's meditating now.
Yeah.
Well, it's just a meditative state, really, listening to both of you. It's a wonderful entree. So,
I just a lot about the meditation stuff.
Well, not really.
I just thrown a ball to you.
There's a few things I'd like to discuss based on what you said there, but so I sort of grew up with it, so it wasn't a choice. It was just something that happened, and then we did that, and then through my 20s and 30s sort of doubled into experiencing different variety, I suppose, of meditation. Not so much breath work. Obviously, Anapana or breath work is sort of the first stage, but everything from living in spiritual retreats in Canada where people were having spiritual marriages and ayahuasca experiences and a variety of other things. But let's stay with the topic. You mentioned something.
Sounds like a good topic to me.
That's right.
Yeah, you have said a couple of things I think are really interesting because our listeners are generally a little bit older. So whether it's the likes of you and Guy that have this sort of high-performance professional athlete mentality, a lot of them have been on the hamster wheel. They've been focused, they've been dedicated, they've been applying themselves to something, maybe their career, maybe their family. They bounce out of that at 60, 65, and then I suspect there's a void. Now, I'm not there yet, Leachy, you were 65 about 10 years ago. So there's this void we drop into I'm sure they drop into where they're looking for something. And you've spoken about it a little bit, and I think it's very pronounced for athletes. It's very raw. It's very, experiential for you.
Yep.
Other people, it's more subtle. They sort of might wake up and go a bit lost. And you hear these older groups say, don't retire, you have nothing to do.
Yeah.
So can you talk to me a little bit about your experience as a practitioner with those people in your groups?
Yeah, it's interesting with the older demographic because generally they're like those younger people that are coming through, I feel like a lot of them are more open to these different techniques. Older people, it's all a little bit, even meditation and that, it's, as you know, it's been around for God knows thousands of years, but it's just hasn't been traditionally sort of practiced in the West by, my mum and dad are growing up in the, 50s and 60s, they wouldn't have even heard of it. And they look at what I'm doing now. And I was talking to my mum the other day and she said, I sometimes feel like we've taken home the wrong kid from the hospital. And I'm trying to implement those because my parents are there at the moment. My father's got early onset of dementia. Mum's overwhelmed with everything that comes with that. And so I'm always trying to get her just to regulate her breathing and her nervous system. And she's one of those that, I just can't meditate. My mind is too crazy and all this sort of stuff. I can't push through it, So a lot of the people in that demographic that you're mentioning are really set in their ways and it's really hard to untangle the web. But we do, like we start with like small snippets, and that's why kind of the breath work, having a different experience for me was really important with the breath work. Like, finding that altered state of consciousness and tapping into something that was bigger than myself was really important. Now, you've probably been with that all of your life, which is like very probably rare. I don't know too many people like that. I got a guy that I work with is very similar in that manner. But we have a lot of guys coming in at that age, at that stage of their life now that are lost and they are looking for something. And that's the trigger for them to be able to then start trying something a little bit different, trying something that might actually be frowned upon by their peers, but actually getting to the point where they don't care anymore and they can even almost share that experience, especially if they're starting to see some benefits from it. But it's just about building in some daily practice. Like that's the really important part of it. You don't need to set aside an hour a day or 2 hours a day. I speak to a lot of men and they're like, oh, I'll do anything for my family. You know, they're a mess. They're anxious. They're overwhelmed. They're not happy with their life. They feel like they're not a good father. They feel like they're not a good husband, all these certain things. But I'd lay in on the train tracks for my family. It's like, yeah, but would you do like 20 minutes in the morning and 20 minutes of night of some breath work and meditation? Oh, I don't know about that. Well, what's your anything? You know, when people need to get sometimes to that point, we see a lot of men who want to make sure everything around them is all in order before they put their hand up and go, hey, you know what? I'm struggling, you know. And so, yeah, bringing those guys in and getting them to spend that time on themselves is a really important message. And then, we can't force them. We don't have a magic pill.
How do you get them?
They need to
step over the cliff moment.
Like we have 3-day retreats, and the messaging for those 3 days is really consistent. Yep, and they have experiences in those 3 days where they know that they need to take those tools away with them.
And how do you get them to the 3 days though? Initially, is it through someone else that?
Yeah, look.
Or?
Look, I think there's a fair bit of work of that nature where we are. We're up on the sunny coast and northern rivers. It's there's a little bit of that. We find that down in Sydney, there's not so much of it. Like I'm doing a breathwork event tonight at Big Mark Eye's gym out in Penrith, and then we've got a retreat in about 6 weeks in the Blue Mountains.
Right.
And it's been received very differently down here, you know. So, yeah, like coming on to different mediums like podcasts and speaking about what we do and informing people. Referrals is the most powerful. You know, we've got a lot, and then getting testimonials and getting trust. So people come in and they might know what you're doing. It's funny, but they'll see testimonials and go, right, okay, I believe that. They'll read some reviews. Okay, it's working for someone. But I went to State of Origin this year, first year in 15 years of broadcasting that I didn't have to call a State of Origin, right? Yeah. So I went down to the Brisbane one and did some corporate stuff down there. And I had about 5 different corporate events to do on that Wednesday. And at the first one, a lot of people come going, Gertz, what's happening, mate? You're not on radio anymore. We miss you, blah, 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 blah. What are you doing these days? And I said, I'm doing men's retreats. And they all looked at me like, oh, men's retreats? Men's retreat? What's that? What's that all about? Right?
It's a far cry from rugby league.
Yeah, like not interested, like just dismissive of it, didn't understand it. And then I thought, oh, shit, this isn't working. Like one of the reasons I came to this was to talk to some people to get them to open up and maybe, especially the titans of industry, have an influence, because a lot of the people that come through our systems are, CEOs and whatever, and they go back and they change the whole culture of their organisation. And then halfway through the day, I realised, I said, I'm missing the mark. What can I do differently? And then in the second half of the day, I started saying, I do men's mental health retreats. And then everyone went, oh, my God. Oh, mate, that's amazing. I've got a guy that did this last week and he's really going through this and I'm struggling with this and all that. I'm like, okay, I get it. So the messaging is really important. Yeah, messaging's important.
Yeah, I think it's still largely unspoken. I think there's a lot of people that are reliant on devices. I had a conversation yesterday with captains of industry, to your language, that still relying on Coke and a variety of other things to sort of satisfy their needs. One of the things I think is interesting to talk about here is that, just say, Leachy, you asked the question about how do you get them to that precipice? How do you get them to be interested? When they step into that, and so outside of this podcast, I run a company, and that when you start with us, you do a meditation process from day one. So you do Jeff Warren's 30-day how to learn to meditate on the Calm app.
Okay.
So there's these devices that I find to be really useful, and I'd like to get your opinion on this in a minute, which is you run an experience which people can then refer to. It creates this emotional memory and bookmark that they go, okay, I'm on the path. I've been set on the path.
Yeah.
Then you've got the Calm apps and mindfulness and a variety of other things that are great too.
Yeah.
We created a device because we found through our experience with meditation that it was perishable. There's so many reasons to not meditate, right? You wake up, your dog's sick, your daughter needs to go to school, you can't find the 10 minutes, oh, look, I'll do it later. And
slept in.
And you don't, and one day turns to 2, 3, 4 weeks.
Right. Yeah.
So we had to find something. So we created we referred to an ancient device called a gumtag. We'll talk about that off camera because it's patented, but it provided people with a device where they go, I pick this up, and I can go and do it. It's like an instrument instead of I'm going to sit in a chair. I'm uncomfortable today. Are there things that you use as devices or triggers to keep people on the path?
So we build community essentially. And so we find that there's a lot of people that will come into our programs once, and then maybe every couple of months we do breathwork events. So we have 3 different offerings. We do breathwork events, which is a 2-hour offering. We do a 1-day retreat on the Gold Coast and the Sunny Coast, and we do the 3-day events. So we're always touching our community in the right way, of course. Yes. And we do, within that community, we've got like a lot of chats set up. So we have check-ins, and I'm always putting out different breathing techniques. So we might, over that 3-day, say it's a 3-day event, if it's a 1-day event, they might go through 2 or 3 different breathing techniques. In a 3-day event, they might get 8 or 9. I also do a lot of different movement. So I align movement with breathing, lots of tapping and bouncing and getting the lymphatic system go, all that sort of stuff, yeah? So they're doing weird shit on our retreats, and they don't fully understand it. It's always a caveat at the start. I state, boys, this is going to be different than anything that you've probably ever done, especially the people that are coming in from their relationship that they have with me and my past.
Yes.
Where the main reason I feel like I've been called into this kind of work is so I can help people transition over, because there's trust there from what I've done. I'm a different human than what I was when I played.
For sure.
But there's a lot of trust from people going, well, if it's okay for him, maybe I'll give it a go. And that's why I feel like it's really important that I'm actually putting myself out there in this work to make it okay for those people that really need it but think it's not for them for some reason.
I mean, you are different, but you're not, in that, when you're a professional athlete and you're high performance, you still have the motivation, the discipline, and find purpose in what you're doing to go and then throw yourself into something new, but still have all those characteristics that are there from the past, right?
Yeah.
So I just listen to you now and I think, well, yeah, you're not Ryan Girdler, the NRL player now, but you still got the same passion, dedication, discipline, and want to do something to the best of your ability.
The only reason, boys, I can do this work is because I live it. And that is one thing I say to all the people that come in. I live it every day. I live it. And I do things to myself, and I know there's a lot of, with the cold water therapy and things like that, there's the physical benefits of it. I get all that. But for us, on retreat, it's all about finding comfort in discomfort. All about that. And so how do you behave in those certain situations? So, yeah, we get the benefits of the cold water and, all the different fats that, when you just naturally regulate temperature and all that sort of stuff. Like but, yeah, so we really focus on, like, the discipline parts of, finding that comfort in the discomfort. And the guys kind of like it, like it gives them a little bit of, they take a little bit of confidence out there, because life's uncomfortable, right? Like it can be for most people that are coming in for, the work, they're in some pretty difficult situations.
You tell them that at the start. You say, listen, this isn't going to be like just a retreat for 3 days where you're hanging out and you're not being pushed.
Yeah. Like
you're going to find at times that you're not liking some of the stuff you need to lean into.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, especially with and I'm not sure if you guys have ever done like deep holotropic breathing. Like, I mean, it's physically uncomfortable. Yeah. And you hit plenty of walls, you get dry
Tell
mouth.
people what that is. What does that mean?
So it's basically just a breathing technique that can sort of go for a period of, say, an hour to 2 hours. And it's mouth breathing. And there's a couple of different techniques you can do.
It's not the Wim Hof stuff.
So it's not Wim Hof? No. And so basically what this does, the mind is one of the kind of the things that stops us from getting to a certain place during activity, meditation, life in general. So what these breathing techniques, they help you to bypass the mind a little bit. It quietens the mind. You focus on something else. And then it allows you, because of the nature of the technique where you've just got so much oxygen in the bloodstream, you're like hyperventilating.
You go into a slight hyperventilation state.
There's no carbon dioxide in the body, essentially. Yeah. And then you go into an altered state of consciousness.
You don't need to breathe as much because
you don't need to breathe.
Trigger to breathe, which is carbon dioxide.
Yeah, it's been taken out. So we go into a breath hold. So we'll do some breath holds along the way.
You do it gradually, unlike the Wim Hof stuff where you're literally going in quite hard.
Yeah, like that. It's hard breathing.
Yes.
But we make sure you always do the holds on the exhale. And that's just a beautiful space because it creates a couple of opportunities. Like some people in that stillness will find where they need to be. And they'll get a lot of messaging in that period of time. Some of the stories, some of the stuff that we have going on in that space.
I've seen it.
And then, and some people need the physical rest. They need a bit of reprieve. So we go 5 minutes in, you'll get a breath hold. We'll give them another 5 minutes because the sessions will go for over an hour. And most people come out and go, how long was that? Like 15 minutes?
Yeah.
I want to go back in.
We've seen some pretty amazing stuff.
I wish you'd hold your breath more lately on this podcast.
I've been holding my breath for the last 32 minutes.
So, Ryan, what about scale? Like, obviously, you're having a profound effect with the people that come to you. Do they have to come to you in other ways that you can help them?
So I do individual mentoring as well. So a lot of people will, because see, this is the thing. Like, and you guys know, it takes a lot of resources to run these events, right? And so we also there needs to be a balance in what we receive out of it for our families and whatnot. And that's the really hard thing because you've got a lot of people that need the work that can't afford it. So a lot of those people that will branch off and do some one-on-one work with, give them some techniques and that as well, and build them into a place where maybe one day they can come into a retreat, but they're also getting the service that they need. So, yeah, look, the scaling part of it is, cost of living's going up. Life's getting harder for most people. There's a lot of social injustice out there. Whichever side you want to sit on, you're wrong. The masculine, what do they say about men? Like, we don't have problems, we are the problem. Like you look at the way that society and education, 75% of teachers are female, 75% of talk therapists are female. Yeah. So we need some, not saying that they're not doing a great job, I'm just saying that we need some men out there that can bring some balance into it, that are actually living in that society as well as a male. And talk about their experiences. And for me, it's been all about, it's been like a path of self-realization, essentially, like quietening the noise, as I'm sure, Professor, how important that is. And then, finding that place where you're comfortable with yourself and your past, you're not worried about the future, and just, allowing things to come in naturally the way that they are, and just trying to have those coping mechanisms in place for the drama that comes into our life. And choosing the way that we see that drama. Are we seeing it like from the victim perspective of, oh my God, here I go again, this always happens to me? Or what do I actually need to learn from this situation? Why is this loop keep coming back to me? How can I break free of that? And we give guys some tools that if they apply them with some discipline, they'll break free at some point.
I'll tell you what you've done well. To go and front up tonight and do breath work out at Penrith at Mark Guy's gym. Here's a bloke, stereotype-wise, that you would think, if I said to you, you said 20 years ago, hey, listen, mate, here's a bloke that just loves beating up people on the footy field, that's gone head-to-head with the King, Wally Lewis in State of Origin, and 20 years on, mate, we've opened up to his gym and we're bringing blokes from Penrith in to do breath work, you'd be like, there's no way in the world. The times are changing, brother.
Anyone that knows MG, just knows what a big-hearted human he is. Yeah. And so I played with MG in the late 90s. We've worked together on Triple M for a long time. And the first person I thought of when I was coming down here was the big fella, because he just wants what's best for the people. And I was with him in the process where he set up the gym. I know why. I know, his intentions around what he wanted to provide out there for the people. Yep. And when I rang him, he said, brother, of course. He calls me Sensei. He said, yes, Sensei. Just taking the piss, of course. But, so we're going out there, and the big fella rang me up yesterday and he said, mate, what's going on? Are we on? I'm like, what do you mean are we on? We've sold all these tickets. We're coming, mate. He goes, and I said, what's your experience with breathwork, MG? He goes, I don't have any experience. I've just had a look at your website and your socials. And he said, I don't know what's going to bloody happen. I said, what about all the people out there? He said, no one's got any idea, but we're coming, brother. We can't wait for it.
It's so good.
It's beautiful.
He rang me before he opened up the gym and said, Leachy, you sell defibs, don't you? You got, mate, I need one of those, don't I? I said, bloody oath, you do.
You need two.
He said, can you bring one out for me
Yeah.
to my gym? And so I went out there and, the same thing, had a look at it before he opened up.
Yeah, he's a beautiful human. So, well, I'm really excited about, opening up those new spaces, and
That's a ripper.
And if you've got people like MG, with that sort of standing in community to promote something, that's what we need. And then they trust him.
He's a
They trust him.
People.
I don't know why you trust MG, but they do.
Well, no, you can tell he's a good bloke.
He's a legend.
Now, before we wrap up, I'm sure everyone's keen to know, and in your 50s, what you do, to keep yourself healthy these days. I mean, football sort of style of training wouldn't be there now, but what do you do? What's a normal week for you with fitness and just keeping yourself in nick?
So food's a big one for us, really, I wouldn't say careful, but we're just, like the meats and the different produce that we eat, we try to get, it organic. You almost need a new mortgage these days to eat organic, but we try to, and then got a local butcher. And so we know where where he sources his meats and that from. So when we eat meat, it's good meat. Not everyone wants to go down that path,
sure.
But I've got some really good practices. So meditate and breath work every morning. And then I do sort of calisthenics and movement aligned with breathing. And then I'll do usually cold water. And then my wife's a yoga instructor. So then sometimes, probably 2 or 3 times a week, she'll take me through a really connected. She went through this school up in the Sunshine Coast, which is renowned for their connected yoga, like really different style of yoga, which I really like, really slow moving and lots of breathing and pranayama through it. And I'll do that a couple of times a week. And then I'm hanging out with the kids, and we live on a farm, and I'm on the chainsaw, bro. I'm on the mowers. I'm just doing it.
Your labour.
And then I'm running the retreats. And that's just
the days
my balance.
Gyms and
haven't been to a gym in 20 years, mate. Well, I don't want to go to a gym.
No.
That doesn't interest me. You don't, for the people out there, like I had a really good mentor tell me once when I was playing, he said, mate, the best routines are the ones you'll consistently do.
So you got to enjoy it.
You know what you've been really consistent in, Leach, is going to the gym and sitting in front of the mirror. Every time I go to our gym, we both go to the same gym.
Yeah.
You don't do anything. Like, you love the gym.
I love it.
No one knows what you're actually doing there.
No. I listen to podcasts in there.
Yeah.
As I look in the mirror.
Yeah. It's literally all that happens.
It's inspiring.
Yeah, mate. If that's your thing,
thing.
whatever works.
It is his
like,
thing.
look at him.
It's like, well,
Look at him.
Yeah, it's working for me.
I think that
Just
brings us to a close today.
I was on that insult.
I feel like it. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Guys, thanks for letting me come on and have this experience, boys.
And,
I'm great.
and for people who are listening, what's the website? Where do they go for the Blue Mountain retreat that you got coming up?
Thank you, boys. Yeah, so that's in the middle of November. I don't know when this one's going to go to air, but
next week. So
beautiful.
In October.
Yeah, plenty of time. Reconnectedmen.com. And we're running all different events. So whether you're in Sydney, more so up in Queensland, more regularly, but you'll find us and then just reach out because, we're here to be of service. And if there's enough people that reach out, that's why we're coming to Sydney. A lot of people say, when are you coming down? When are you coming down? And here we are. Thanks for having me, boys. Really appreciate it.
Well done, Ryan.